Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Julien Nicolas. I'm work at ECMWF, and where I'm part of the reanalysis team, and I'm also part of the climate intelligence team, which is putting together every year the European State of the Climate Report. And what I wanted to talk about in this presentation is the low winds in Europe in 2021. So as an example of how we include sector-specific information in this report. I hope by the end of the presentation, you will have a better idea of what I'm talking about. And I want to thank some of the people that contributed in various ways to the material I will present here. So Chiara, Paul, Alberto, Freya, and all the ESOTC team, so the team that prepared the report. So Gerhard mentioned the report in his presentation. So just a quick introduction of this report. So that's one of the main activities of the climate intelligence team at C3S, which is to put together this report. That's this year we released, so in April, the 5th edition about the European State of the Climate in 2021. So we published it in April. This effort is led by Freya Remborg, that you will hear right after me. And it involves a lot of people within, at ECMWF, within the whole C3S project, but also beyond in the Met Service and other European institutions and universities. In this report, we covered Europe primarily, but also the Arctic and the globe as a whole. And for each of these regions, we covered a broad range of variables. One of them this year was the low winds. One topic that we covered specifically was the low winds, and for which we also, and that's what you can see on the right. So we included dedicated sections and covered also in our summary with some infographics. So what do I mean by low winds? So I'm going to present some of the results that we showed, and I will introduce the data sets afterwards, so just so that it flows better. So bear with me. So some of you may recall that in 2021, so the average wind speed over Europe was unusually low over part of Europe, so specifically northwestern Europe. So we're talking about average annual wind speed about 6% or more below average, below the 30-year average from 1991 to 2020. On the quarterly scales, so the largest anomalies occurred in the third quarter, so in the summer, over the UK and Ireland, with average wind speed up to 20% below average. In the annual average, that 6% or more, that doesn't sound a lot, but if you look at the rankings, so we ranked the wind speeds so by year, so from 1979 to 2021, and what we found is that these wind speed over northwestern Europe, so on average, so the annual average, were either the lowest, so that the darkest shade of blue, or the second lowest, so over the UK, Germany, Denmark, some Benelux, and the Czech Republic. In the third quarter, so July to September, so over the UK, there was a very clear patterns of wind speed being the lowest in the whole data record. And I forgot to mention that these data are based on the ERA 5 reanalysis. So that was for, so these, yes, the data were based on the ERA 5 analysis. We went a bit farther, and we aggregated the data by country and ranked the annual wind speed from the most below average, so in blue, to those that were above average. And so the 5 countries with the largest negative anomalies of wind speed, average wind speed, were Ireland, the UK, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Germany. Netherlands were very close to Germany as well. And on the left, you see the annual time series of these annual average wind speed. And so the year 2021 really stands out as either the lowest or second lowest. So it was the second lowest in the UK and Ireland, and lowest in Czech Republic, Denmark, and Germany. And so these data sets that we used for this, it's based on ERA5, but it's part of this C3S energy indicators that we specifically used for these sections. And so alongside these, the data about wind speeds, so these data sets also provide estimates of the wind power, also derived about ERA5, and therefore we took advantage of these estimates to go one step further and translate the change in the wind speed into the potential impact on wind power generations in European countries. And so what these bar charts shows, so on the right, this is for onshore, on the left this is for onshore, on the right for offshore, and this is the capacity, the anomalies in the capacity factor for wind power generation. So capacity factors, this is the ratio between the actual energy output and the theoretical maximum. And so we ranked these anomalies again by countries, and you see again that some of the countries with the largest negative anomalies were, you had the Czech Republic, Ireland, Germany, UK, so that's for onshore. UK and Ireland also, in Germany also come up for offshore. So this is one example where we translated the changes that we were seeing in the meteorological variables into a quantity, into impact on the wind power generations. And so to give you a sense of why the implications of these anomalies, I've borrowed a couple of plots from the report from Wind Europe, just to show you in terms of total wind power generation capacity. So Germany and the UK comes near the top. So Germany is the largest capacity. UK comes third. And in terms of the share of the average energy consumption covered by wind power, you see that the countries that for which we found some of the largest anomalies are Denmark and Ireland. So they are the 2 countries with the largest share. Germany and the UK come fifth and sixth. Netherlands is also close. So there were clearly some important implication about these lower than average wind speed for this country and for the Europe energy sector. So going back to the data set that we use, this is the data set called the climate energy indicators for Europe, derived from reanalysis. In this case, this is ERA5. And it is part of the C3S operational service for the energy sectors. And what this data set provides is a set of variables of meteorological variables that are directly derived from ERA5, but also a set of estimates about wind power generations for wind, hydro, solar, and also some estimate of, you can see it here, of the energy demand. So just to understand what we were able to say, how to interpret the data that we presented in the section of the report. So the input data, so used, am I slipping? So the input data, they are based on the ERA5 reanalysis, and the conversion models that, oh, thank you. Yes, and so the way the data are converted into the capacity factor for wind power. So an homogeneous distribution of wind turbine is assumed all over Europe, and the same hub height, so the difference between the surface and the height of the rotor of the wind turbine is assumed to be at 100 meters for all wind turbine. And the power curves, so that's the relationship between the wind speed and the power output, is used to convert the wind speed to the capacity factor. And these two types of power curves, one for offshore and one for offshore, are used. And then the data are computed at the model level, and then aggregated at country and sub-country level. So that's the methodology. So this provides an estimate of the potential impact. I think the word potential is important here, and it was important for us also to underscore in the report that this is not the data reported by the industry, but this is the estimated potential impact on wind power generation. Just a quick word. So beyond wind, I think there are other variables in the report that are relevant to energy power generations, and one of them is sunshine duration. So it's an example of how what we did for wind power generations could be potentially extended to other variables as well. Coming into the conclusions, so just the main takeaway message. 2021 was clearly an unusual year in the context of the last 40 years, with this below-average wind speed over a large part of Europe. The C3S energy indicator datasets allows us to translate the change in the wind speed into a potential impact on wind power generations. Given the importance of the wind and energy supplies at the moment and throughout 2022, and especially as Europe is moving through its energy transition, it is increasingly important to monitor and to understand the wind variability and to see how it is changing as the climate changes. And the same approach, as I said, could potentially be extended to other variables that we covered in the report. Thank you.
We have time for one very quick question. If we could have a mic at the front. There it is.
Can you talk about the Synoptic situation that produced this low wind anomaly, and if there's any connection with, say, the Arctic or the Rossby wave?
Yes, it was one of the questions that we didn't cover in depth in the report, but I think the low wind speed, particularly over the UK and Ireland, they were associated with the anti-cyclonic synoptic situations, so over to the northeast of the UK and during the summer particularly. And at the same time, there were some very low sea ice in the Greenland Sea, for example. There was some melt event in Greenland as well. So this is an example of the synoptic situation that led to the low wind speed over the UK. It's not necessarily the same situation that led to the low wind speed over the rest of Europe, especially Central Europe. Does that answer part of your questions? Okay, thank you.
We can get a follow-up during the panel. Thank you very much,
We can
Julien.
explain this.